We've referenced a lot of films for things that we loved, but Blue Eyes was really the main thing, whereas like that informed me back when I was first researching Harley as to who she was and that she was capable of doing really bad things.
She's just become such a iconic character, I think, because she is so fascinating and complex, and I think at the heart of who she is, there's this conflict of Dr. Quinzel and Harley Quinn that is epitomized by the blue and the pink in her hair. Like, she can't even choose, right? She's constantly, is she good, is she bad? That's why she's such a good anti-hero.
I think there's so many reasons to love Harley Quinn. First of all, she's like nuts in the most lovable way. She is, even, watching her in this movie, because you get to see a lot of other things about Harley Quinn that you haven't seen before. And I think people who are very familiar with the comics will know and recognize this Harley. But where she was, relentlessly psycho, let's say in Suicide Squad, she is also incredibly endearing. You get to see how smart she is. You get to see her in her environment, eating cereal, watching cartoons. She loves Looney Tunes. But I think people relate to her audacity, and her cleverness as well. I think she's aspirational in a kooky way. I've really come to admire her because she's much more than you would think. She's dangerous, a little bit unpredictable, but I think just absolutely lovable.
I think in the history of comics, Harley was originally created to be Joker's girlfriend, and she became such an interesting character in her own right that then, there were spin-offs. And it's funny because we're sort of doing the same thing in the cinematic universe as well.
When the project came to me, it was already pretty much in script stage. Margot had already brought Brian Unclus on. They asked me to join. The script was evolving a little bit, but not much at that point. And thus began our search for a director. And, it was, the brief had been, made clear to people around town that we wanted to work with, a woman preferably. Obviously the idea would be, the best filmmaker should get the job. But because this was sort of a DC film, the first of its kind, female-led, story about all these wonderful women coming together. And because of all the circumstances, going on in our business and culture at the time, that it would be appropriate to try and find a female filmmaker.
And that's what I love so much about the film is it just felt like we're a part of a new era of DC that's being ushered in. Birds of Prey stars Margot Robbie, who plays Harley Quinn, and it's pretty much how she encounters 3 other unlikely characters, and they have to end up joining forces and save this kid, Cassandra Cain, who I play, against a narcissistic villain.
It really surprised me in that it's clever and the fast pace of it and the playing of time, going back and forth, is really clever. It's really smart. And also, of course, I was by this point knew that they wanted me to play Roman, and I was very happy with him.
We got a lot of inspiration from the New 52 series because that's her out on her own. She's no longer with the Joker. Aesthetically, it was a little bit more in our world.
She understood the story, the characters. She had so many additional thoughts from everything, from color palettes to plot points to everything. So it felt really right when Cathy came in. We all kind of looked at each other like, wow, this is perfect.
Cass keeps finding new ways to impress Harley. And even though I think Harley doesn't show it, she definitely enjoys being around Cassandra Cain. And throughout the film, they start to build this relationship that they don't want to break.
And so I think it was really fun to be able to create an original world and then draw inspiration from what felt right, because these characters have existed for a long time, and then they have also evolved over the years too.
I loved that the whole cast was female. That was something really cool. And Cassandra Cain's character, she's super interesting and very colorful with her vocabulary. And I just loved, when I immediately read the script, I just loved Cassandra Cain and who she was.
I was so impressed by Cathy's vision and her ability to be the captain of the ship. And this was a mighty ship. This was a really big ship. But she led with such vision, and you know, it was just great to watch this woman on set. You know, she knew what she wanted. You know, she really did. And that's all you really want from your director.
She was very well prepared. She was very, very well prepared. And, you know, and she's very focused. Very, very focused woman. Yeah. And when she first made the call, you know, to me, she was very honest with me. You know, she said, you do not fit in the age group for who they want for this character. But if you're willing to fight, I'm willing to fight. And I thought that was awesome.
She's absolutely the best director we could have hired for this movie. I'm blown away by her. I think she's very unique in that she can seamlessly work within a very artistic realm, and she can follow her heart, and she can be a dreamer, and she can, you know, hold her own with in the world of production design and cinematography, and she can work with all those people, and yet she also is able to be very focused and organized and structured about executing on that vision.
Working with Cathy was honestly so eye-opening, and she taught me so much and pushed me to my limits and past them. She's so open about anything, and we really wanted to figure out who Cassandra Cain was, and how her working vibe, I would say, is so cool and such a nice thing to be around.
Cathy has such a clear idea of the film, the look, the world. She described it to me. If you know, if Gotham kind of was Manhattan, this is the boroughs where we are. There's a lot of immigrants and colors and shapes and sizes, and that already, you know, that right away sparked something for me. And then the design team has been phenomenal.
We really wanted to make this Gotham more of the scraps of what Gotham really is, and I think that helps the story play out with who each character is and how the setting really works out.
It feels like anything's possible in it. It feels more fun and vibrant, and like I was saying about her movie, full of real people and characters. And so I think she's allowed herself, created a world that allows all of that vibrancy in those characters. And so that I think the sort of her Gotham City supports the people in the story as opposed to it being people in this place.
I love the world that KK built. It's very interesting because it's very grounded, but very artistic, you know, at the same time. Like, I look at the Black Mass Club, and that's my favorite set in the film. I love all the female iconography all over the set, the statues, and all the busts, and the color palette and whatnot, and the, you know, beautiful like textures in it, the velvets. I was looking, you know, we're working on the grading of the film, and I was looking at Ewan McGregor's blue velvet suit, and like it's like you could touch the movie and touch that velvet. But it's very rich and sumptuous, you know, the palette and the feel of it, but yet it feels very gritty, different aspect of Gotham. And I think that's the most interesting thing about the movie. There have been a lot of Batmans, there have been a lot of Gothams, but trying to create a world that was different and unusual, but still felt familiar, the Gotham that people wanted to see. I think he did a really great job, and it feels very, very rich and very vibrant.
I think they feel real and raw, and they're not perfect. They drop F-bombs, they make terrible decisions or bad choices. They are really raw in the movie, and that's what I loved about it, and that's what I really wanted to make sure came across in the film, that none of these women are perfect, they're not aspirational in that sense, and that you can have superheroes or comic book characters that feel more relatable.
When you have all these incredibly intelligent, artistic, and creative women together, not only is a different perspective that you unfortunately, unfortunately all too rare, but it's also these women in particular that bring a lot to it.
Everyone I think has their flaws, and that I think is what we all want to see on screen these days. Or Huntress, who has to learn some social codes that maybe she did not get to learn given what what her life was like.
Huntress is very single-minded. She witnessed her whole family being massacred, and she has had a very sheltered life, but all she knows and can think about is revenge, and who can blame her? And what I love about her is just her resilience, but also her single-mindedness when it comes to the mission to go out and exact revenge on the people who killed her family.
Mary was really able to bring like a level of depth, but also humor to the role. Where she is, you see her starting to open up to the world towards the end of the movie. And also you see how, much of an outsider she is because of everything she's gone through. So it was really fun to develop that character that way. With Black Canary, we kind of drew upon we gave her the classic blue and gold like palette of like early Black Canary, but then also the sort of punk rock aesthetic of the later Canaries.
Black Canary in our film, Dinah Lance, she's very much so the Dinah Lance that we love and know from the comics. And what we really wanted to capture was the essence of Dinah Lance. And one of the things that we love about Dinah is her heart. She's all heart, she's all compassion. She's this amazing martial artist, this expert street fighter, and yet when we meet her in the film, she hasn't yet become this powerful Black Canary that we know her to be. She hasn't really owned her strength. She hasn't really completely owned her power. She's in this point in her life in which she wants nothing to do with cleaning up Gotham. She doesn't care to be a vigilante. She just wants to keep her head down and do her work. So for me, it was very interesting to explore this idea of a woman who is so powerful, and yet she's in her own way. She's so strong, and yet she chooses to not use her powers.
Black Canary has a very interesting backstory, and I think that Journey has brought so much depth and nuance to that performance. She is, she's just trying to stay alive, and she's stuck in this situation working for Roman Sionis in a club, and clearly he's very despicable, and she doesn't know what else to do. I mean, most people in our world, in Gotham, right, they are stuck in their own circumstances with, no way really to get out, right? That's what happens. I think the Journey has brought also a lot of depth to her character, and I think the fans are really going to love what she's done. She also has an incredible voice. She does all her own singing in the film. Canary is a singer in the comics.
I had so much fun with the singing on stage and, trying to find the way Canary performs. How does Canary hold a mic? What kind of mic does she hold? I mean, it was a lot of fun to step inside that world because I love it and respect it so much, and I'm such a music head.
I think that she gives us a very poignant performance, and her growth is also there's a lot of dimension to it.
Ella's great. I mean, it's so impressive to me. This is her big, feature debut, and I can't even imagine the pressure, just like how crazy it must be for her, to show up to set and you have a scene with Margot Robbie, and I think she's been such a champ about the whole thing. She's incredibly mature and precocious for her age, and Ella really understands the character. She really gets it, and I think she brings a certain authenticity to it. She just feels like a kid, like a real kid, and not like a shiny, perfect version of a girl.
This movie is it has this heightened reality, so whenever we play with style, you have to be careful where it lands. And some characters can just go over the edge and it's fine, and then others, like Cassie, can't. Kind of have to, she's one of our, you gotta play by the rules.
Cassandra Cain is a street girl. She lives in the streets of Gotham. She doesn't really have a family or a home. She's jumping from foster care to orphanages, and she's really misguided and super independent. She has to fight to live and survive in this world, and until she meets Harley Quinn, she really finds a home and a family in Gotham.
Our Cassandra Cain is a little bit different than the ones in the comics. And Ella J. Basco, who plays her, she does an amazing job. And she's the impetus for all that transpires in our film. She is a pickpocket. She grows up in a foster home, rejected, by her family. She's out on the streets. Very well-intentioned, but a pickpocket all the same. And she takes a diamond that doesn't belong to her, right? It belongs to Roman Sionis. So, of course, all of Gotham is after her and the diamond, and this is how all these women come together. So she is the driving force of our story. Ella does an amazing job as Cass. She is, you just feel for her. She's tough but sweet. This is her first big role, and you'll see she really holds her own. She's just smart and tough and charming and incredibly lovable.
Whether it's Renee, who is a little too tough and sometimes just, she gets in her own way.
I'm in the head of Renee Montoya, She has one thing on her mind, and that is justice. And everything else can fall to the wayside, and she is so used to just relying on herself because she's dismissed, disregarded, by her contemporaries and her colleagues, so even getting together with the other birds of prey, she resisted, but only for a split second.
I thought she was awesome. I mean, she brings such groundedness and grit, and, Rosie Perez has, she's just iconic, and, I mean, it's impossible to not be a strong character, right? I think she's just innately so strong, and she has that, do not with me attitude, and she just keeps going no matter what, and that tenacity that I think Rosie has is exactly what Renee needs.
He's been booted out of this very, very rich family.
Roman is a bit of a black sheep there, and I think he he wants to control everything because he can't control his own emotions, and he is someone that, is a bit unhinged.
That absolutely kills him every minute. He can't stand it. I mean, I think he hates them, but he hates them for hating him, the fact that they had enough of him and they kicked him out and they cut him off, I think is unforgivable to him. And to have been brought up absolutely spoiled and just dripping in wealth, and then to be cut off is almost too much for him to bear. So he's full of rage about his family and everything. But at the same time, I think everything is about proving to his daddy that he's, that he's worthy of him somehow.
We played with femininity and masculinity with him. We played with ego, and we used that part of his character of ego to infiltrate everything. If you lift open the inside of the suit jacket, it's his initials on all, on all of his suits. His shoes have his initials, his gloves have his initials.
Which makes him a really interesting foil for Harley because she steals his thunder a lot. She steals his limelight. She's the kooky one. She's the funny one. And he loves being the center of attention, and so does she. And so I think they become very interesting foils to one another. And just the way that I think Harley makes a few good decisions in the movie that gives her more of a heroic arc, if you will. He makes the bad decisions that makes him the villain of the movie.
He's not just a bad guy. He's not just a villain. There's quite a lot. There's quite a lot we know about him, about his backstory and about his family and about his upbringing. We sort of understand, or at least I can understand him. So it's always important as an actor to do that. You can't really play the bad guy or the good guy. You have to play a person and understand what makes them tick. And so in this case, it's quite good. But he has a rage issue, which is just going to be so much fun to play, I think.
I love our Roman and our Zsasz. They are really creepy and menacing, but also charismatic and charming. Ewan, he's Ewan McGregor, so he does an amazing job. I think he's a narcissist, but you can see his power in getting people to do what he wants. He's incredibly charming and charismatic. Our film gives you a really great glimpse into his backstory, though, and he's nuts, obviously, and crazy. But it is Zsasz, his sidekick, Victor Zsasz, who does all the dirty work for him.
Victor wants to be Roman. I think he isn't from that wealth. He's worked hard to become a part of it, but he doesn't know it really in his soul and his body. And so I think there's a part of him that wants to be Roman. He looks up to Roman.
The two of them together have a very interesting relationship, and they feed off of each other, their villainy, but they are very fun to watch. I always love the villain in any movie I see, and I think people who also love villains are going to love the two of them.
He's a great villain. He really made some unexpected and brave choices with Roman.
Oh, I love Ewan. I loved working with him so much. So much. I loved it. I mean, he's so good in this. He's so funny. I mean, everything was such a surprise with him. Every take was a surprise, and we had a lot of fun.
I think there was room to do that in this movie because it didn't necessarily have to fall on his shoulders. It really is you've got this female ensemble cast, and so many of the Birds of Prey characters are so true to their comic book selves with creative choices on top of it. And I think that meant that Roman and Zsasz could kind of be whatever they needed to be the perfect opposition to that female ensemble.
I think he brings like a real charm to the part. And he has, again, going back to your question, there is a viciousness about Roman, but there's also, when we did the table read, he's also really funny, and you find yourself laughing at him and charmed by him.
I think Ewan had great ideas, and him and Cathy worked on it a lot to come up with what that would be.
I love Roman. I think he's hilarious. I think that Ewan was able to bring such charm and such comedy, but also vulnerability to the role. And I love developing Roman with Christina and with Margot. This movie owes so much to Margot. I mean, it really was her idea. She wanted she pitched it. She pitched the idea of a girl gang movie with Harley Quinn, and that was because she, I think, understood the character and that Harley is not someone that wants to ever be alone, whether she is with her stuffed beaver or whether she's with her hyena. Like, she's got to be, or whether she was with the Joker. Like, she is someone that needs other people, and she is not the kind of woman that doesn't want to hang out with other women. She desperately, wants to, and so I think that stemmed from her understanding of who Harley is.
I had so much fun playing Harley in Suicide Squad. The most exciting thing as an actor is to have a number of choices with your character. You can kind of do anything when you're Harley Quinn. You could react one way or you could react 20 other different ways, and it always makes sense for the character. So that's a liberating and creatively stimulating place to be working anyway. But with the relationship with Mr. J, there's still a lot there, and we kind of wanted to see, okay, what's Harley like when she doesn't have the comfort of knowing that Mr. J will take care of her or take care of things.
And then she developed the script with Christina. I think she recruited Christina in the process. So this has been a very personal journey for her, I think. It's been many, many years in the making, so I feel very honored to be a part of that. And then she was very actively involved as both a star but also as a producer. And it's pretty amazing how she can just like move, put one hat on and take the other off.
She really had her hand in everything on this movie, but at the same time she managed to keep such a clear head all the time, which I was so impressed by, because you would think with all the different roles she's playing and all the different hats she's wearing that it would be stressful or that she'd be sort of in over her head or something at some moment, and she never was. She was cool as a cucumber.
Margot's an incredible actress, but what I think she brings to Harley that is just so special is, yeah, Harley's crazy, she's a psycho, she's quirky, she's all these annoying things, but Margot finds a way to ground her in a truth that I think we can relate to. I mean, yeah, she's flawed. She does bad things, but yet there's a little bit of us in her, and I think that's the genius in how she's constructed Harley Quinn.
The thing that I was impressed about Margot is that she wore the hat of producer very, very well. She didn't puff out her chest about it. She was extremely accessible, very professional, and very, very prepared in that role. And for such a young woman, I was like, I'm impressed. I'm thoroughly impressed. And still be able to stay focused as her character, Harley Quinn, and kick ass. It was just mind-blowing to me.
She's super impressive. I mean, obviously she's fantastic in this role, and she's created something very special. But as a producer, she's been extremely encouraging and warm.
Who would have guessed that Margot Robbie, as we know her today, would have embraced? I mean, Margot loves Harley and Harley Quinn. She loves playing her. She loves devoting the energy and time to figuring her out, her quirks, and bringing all that dimension to her. But so lucky for audiences everywhere. I think lucky for Warner Brothers, certainly lucky for us. I mean, she's amazing to work with. And, aside from being obviously exceptionally talented as an actor, she was a producer on this film, and she was able to, toggle back and forth and switch gears. But she's just a wonderful person. She's smart, she's collaborative. She's just fabulous, funny, and just easy.
If I was gonna go kick some butt, what would I feel really good in? And that was always kind of like the thing. Like, it had to feel strong. It had to feel sexy. It had to feel empowered. And I think everything we do, we like ran it through that test.
Erin Banak, our amazing costume designer, I think she just knows what women want to wear today. She always looks effortlessly cool herself. And so that was really fun, getting to create the costumes and pay homage to the comics, but also make it feel relevant for what women want to see. And the street style, like, we drew a lot of inspiration both from the comics, but also what women are wearing now, street style. And hopefully that kind of creates a unique vision of the world as well.
She certainly lives within the world of comic books, but again, brings some naturalism to it, an edge to it, and a sense of like, I think I've seen someone once dressed that cool, but it's like we're going to the party where everybody's 25% cooler than you. And she can live in that space and make it feel real. And so I think that we're going to have, hopefully, more Halloween costumes out of the Harley looks. They blow me away.
Aaron has created costumes for these women that look like costumes or clothing that women out there in the world would wear as well. So while they're cool and they're edgy, they're not your typical superhero kind of costumes. I think, there's already, people are, imitating the fashion that's in the film.
I think they just wanted a fresh take on a superhero, and that it was something that we could all relate to through tangible, wearable clothing. That it wasn't, there are no superhero suits, there are no cat suits, there's nothing, you could go and make these costumes yourself.
The thing about it, it's like, in a lot of ways, it's very practical kind of clothing, but each woman has a very well-defined look, but it is still drawn from the iconography and the canon, because we wanted to make sure that we were respectful to that canon. Harley has a lot of interesting costumes, but she's also, we see her out at night. You've never seen her, wearing what she would wear at home, her pajamas, right? Or, out without the Joker at a club.
It was so much fun. I mean, now finally getting to see the whole group back together again and reminiscing about all of it, I'm really realizing how much fun it was and how connected I felt to all of the women involved, and the guys too, but the birds in particularly are just like my girlfriends. I love them.
They definitely did make it easier for me, and they made it a lot more fun than I expected. This being my first film, I don't know what to expect, but they definitely set the bar high for what I expect in the future, because they are just the nicest people. They taught me so much, and now I know a lot about the industry and how to work with people.
I think similarly to Huntress, I was sort of surprised by the impact that it had on me working with all of these women. I mean, I knew it's the reason why I wanted to do it. One of the main reasons why I wanted to do it was to work on something that was so predominantly female-led. But it's had such a lasting impact on me, what that felt like, and particularly with these women who were just so strong and powerful and completely unique and completely themselves. And to get to see them all be that way on set, really, I feel like I came away a little bit more in my own power and a little bit more, secure in who I am. And it just feels so great to know them all and to have them in my life.
For me, Margot doing it, very difficult, because skates and all these extra elements definitely increase the level of difficulty when you're already doing something kind of tricky, but it's so right for the character. I'd never want it any different.
For me, I was really just kind of drilling martial arts and drilling jiu-jitsu. So I was learning all sorts of throws. I was learning just like real basics. And they would be drilling it into me every day. I'd be doing things over and over and over again. And there'd be no choreography. So it was kind of boring at first. I was just kind of like, but when do I get to the choreography, you guys? Like, give me some moves. And then once we started doing the choreography, I realized they had been teaching it to me, but I didn't know it. They were sort of slyly building it from the ground up. So by the time we started choreographing it, they were all moves that I knew. They'd be like, oh, you're going to throw this one in, then you're going to do a bit of that. And I'd be like, oh yeah, I got that. That's good. I got it. So they're very, very smart with the way they build it.
To have to train for almost 5 months, I mean, I trained like 5 days a week, changed my diet, and tried to put on as much muscle as I could. But really it was about not how I looked. It was about more so how I felt, which was really liberating as a woman, to not care about how your body looks, but more so care about how your body feels. And I just wanted to feel strong.
Surprisingly, it came quick because I understand the sport. So I understood how, what a jab looked like and what a right cross, how that was supposed to look like, and so it came quick, but just the physicality of it was exhausting.
Harley fights, I think everything Harley does is totally impractical. She will wear something that is just not appropriate for the situation. It's like wearing a big jacket with things flowing off it while trying to do a fight scene, or putting on skates when you're about to fight on a moving platform. I mean, none of it makes sense, which is so Harley. She'll bring a baseball bat to a gunfight. It does not make sense, but whatever to her seems like the most fun option, she's always going to go for it. So you're going to see Harley do fight sequences in the most absurd situation, which she's for sure made 1,000 times more difficult for herself. But in her mind, there was no other way to do it.
My favorite scene to shoot was my fight scene with Margot, with Harley Quinn. We started really hurting each other. And, and we just gave it our all. Renee Montoya comes in, they're a little drunk, so the fighting is a little sloppy, and then all of a sudden she refocuses, and it is game on.
The physical training was really important for Huntress because that is so much of who she is, that it really felt like it wasn't just, oh, we're doing a fight scene. It was really more like an acting scene for me, because that's how she expresses herself, really, is through fighting and killing and maiming and whatever it is she's doing. It's coming from a really emotional place. So that was really important to get that right. And then beyond that, Cathy and I just really played, beforehand and on the day, improving, playing around in terms of how is this bubbling up in her and how does it come out of her mouth, and how awkward is she, or how in control of herself is she, how out of control is she, and really kind of playing with the calibration of that in every scene, and just kind of seeing what came out naturally.
It was incredible. It was unlike really any experience I've had on a movie set prior to this. Just in general, the character pushed me so far beyond really anything I've done on screen, just in forcing me to step outside my comfort zone and do things like sing or train for 5 months to become a street fighter, an expert martial artist. These are things you can't really fake. And so between that and then working with this amazing cast, and we've all become so close since, and just working in an environment that felt so safe and felt so freeing was really, really refreshing.
It's a lot of fun. It's a wild ride, and I think we wanted people to get a taste of what life could be like when you see it from Harley's point of view. And when you watch this film, that's what you're getting. It's unpredictable, and it's out of order, and it's messy, and it's funny, and it's dangerous, and it's violent, and it's absurd, and it's heartbreaking and heartwarming. It's a bit of everything, which is kind of like the character.
The whole story, again, is told through the lens of Harley Quinn. So it is outrageous, it is larger than life, it is funny, it has got ADD, it is not, it's impolite, it's crass, it is not a pat version of women coming together and doing what's right. No, this is something that is actually has a more raw attitude about it. It lives in Gotham, in the mean streets of Gotham, not the Manhattan Gotham. It's in the outer boroughs of Gotham where there is a seedy underbelly to it. And so it really, I like that edge.
I think every scene, every frame of it, even just in terms of the composition, everything that's happening in it, is like a treat for the eyes. It's fun, and it's spirited, and it's violent and gritty and raw, but in this way that you feel like you're rooting for the characters. And I just can't wait to see what people think. I can't wait.
It's fun. It doesn't take itself too serious. The action is wild and bananas, and the tone is so quirky and crazy and off the wall. But I think at the end of the day, what Cathy did is she put together a piece of art in which you just go in and you leave the outside world behind you and you just have a good time.
I think that people are going to be pleasantly surprised that this is an action-packed, fun, wild ride.
It's got a lot of dark elements to it, and it's super funny. I didn't realize how funny it was. It's really brave. And for this kind of film, DC comic book world of it, I found it to be very uplifting at the end.
Plus, we have two great bad guys in Ewan McGregor and Chris Messina, in a fantastic, new setting for Gotham and a whole new world that's been created. There's a lot that's new and different. And I think the movie is very action-packed, but also very funny, very clever, very smart. It's just a fun ride.
I wanted to see more of these women fight the bad guys. And I liked how they came together and started working together.
They're definitely gonna like the energy that each character brings, which is completely different, and it's so inspiring and so powerful, and it honestly makes you feel like, yeah, I can go out and be a boss and do this, and I could, run a company or do this because of this movie. And I think it really makes you feel special and powerful.
There's so much people are going to like about this movie. First, you get to see a whole new group of women and men, right? New characters from DC that you haven't seen before. I mean, most of the DC movies, right? You've seen Batman, you've seen Superman, but these are new characters. And you see a different version of Harley, who is beloved, right, the world over. You get to see her, different aspects of her, and you're privy to a world that you haven't been introduced to in films before.
The feeling I get when I read the script is it kind of punches you in the face with raw emotion and with humor, and I hope that the audience feels like they are just completely immersed within our version of a girl gang movie.
It's funny and it's fun and it's quick-paced and it's just this bright, poppy, heightened, fantastical world, but there's friendship and heart and humor, and yeah, I think people are just going to have a really good time watching it.